Hello, my name is Jim McGillivray, and welcome to the Pipe Box, your source for all things piping. If you find this video useful, please give it a like, and please subscribe to this YouTube channel to see more videos like this. We're going to be going over some music today, and you can print out this music by going back to the YouTube description of this video. There's a link to a PDF there. Today I would like to continue with the Piobaireachd we began in part 1, Lady Anapool's Lament. Last time I spoke a lot about strong, medium, strong as a way of approaching each bar in a common time tune. I particularly stressed the importance of stressing the fourth pulse in each bar as you play a Piobaireachd. I want to make sure that you understand that this is not turning the tune into some kind of a mathematical thing that we can play simply by counting beats and holding the ones of certain numbers. This is a way into the tune, a way to help you find some structure and phrasing as you learn the tune. As you become more familiar with the tune, you might want to bend these pulses a little bit. You may find a fourth pulse that you're just going to roll through and push the last pulse in the phrase rather than the last pulse in the first bar. This is all part of the expression of Piobaireachd. We ultimately express the tune the way the phrase and the music demand it. A second point around overall expression, and this is important, you really don't learn how to play a tune until you have it memorized and you're able to focus completely on music and not on which note comes next. So be patient with the music, memorize the tune, and eventually you'll get it. One final point, learn how to sing Piobaireachd. You don't have to sing in tune. You can make up your own syllables. No one has to hear you. Just sing the tune and it will help you figure out how the tune goes. I can't tell you how many tunes I learned how to play during long evening walks singing Piobaireachd. Try it and see. Okay, back to Lady Anapool. We have done the ground. We have done the G-ish singling and doubling, and now we're going to move on to the Taorluath, the Crunluath, and the Crunluaths. But I would like to start by showing you exactly how to read the music for these variations. Let's look at the music now. Here you see the Taorluath, Crunluath, and Crunluaths all packaged into 3 lines. We're going to play this variation 3 times. Each time we're going to put a G grace note at the front of the theme note listed here. You should know that the theme notes in this variation are the same theme notes that we've used in the G-ish and the G-ish doubling variations. So if you have those variations memorized, you pretty much have the tune memorized from here on in. First time through this variation, we're going to connect the theme notes with Taorluaths, like this. Second time through the variation, we'll connect the theme notes with Crunluaths, like this. And the third time through the variation, we'll connect the theme notes with Crunluaths. We'll talk about each of these in more detail as we go. So, first to the Taorluath variation. This variation is going to be expressed in a similar fashion to the G-ish variations, a very long theme note and a very short note after the Taorluath, like this. It's almost like the Taorluath is part of the next theme note. That's how close it is to the next theme note. Very short note after the Taorluath. That's crucial. Listen to it once again. Here is the exact rhythm of this Taorluath variation. Ho, habadum bo, habadum bo, habadum bee, habadum bo, habadum bo, habadum bee, habadum 1, 2, habadum 1, 2, habadum 1, 2, habadum 1. Duple time. Resist the temptation to play your Taorluath variation in compound time, like this. Da ba dum ba ba dum bee ba dum bo ba dum ba. That's triple time. We'll do that in the Crunluath, but the Taorluath is always duple time. Bo habadum bo habadum bee habadum bo habadum. In the recording of this variation, you're going to hear that I come out of the G-ish doubling, make a transition into the Taorluath, and then I make a transition from the Taorluath into the Crunluath. Listen to these very carefully. Transitions in Piobaireachd are extremely important. Here's the Taorluath variation. Transition into the Taorluath variation, you may wish to slow down the last 2 or 3 notes of the G-ish doubling. Then when you hit the Taorluath, ramp your tempo up very slightly until it's just about the same tempo as the G-ish doubling. If there had been a Taorluath singling in this tune, which there isn't, we would have dropped our tempo from the G-ish doubling very slightly. But essentially this Taorluath variation is a doubling. So we don't want it to be any slower than the G-ish doubling. Let's look at our Crunluath variation now. I'm sorry to say that I'm not going to teach you how to play Crunluath here. That is in an earlier video. Here we are going to talk about music and timing of the Crunluath movement. We're now going to play the Crunluath movement, this variation, in triple time. We played the Taorluath in double time, as you recall. Ho, habadum bo, habadum bo. Crunluath is in triple time. Ho, badilly, oh, badilly, oh, badilly, oh. You might call it a waltz rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The E at the end of the movement is a lot longer than the low A at the end of the Taorluath in that variation. Do, ba dilly, oh, ba dilly, oh, ba dilly, ah, ba dilly. Something like this. Let's hear the whole Crunluath variation now. I want you to notice how the counting of triple time starts immediately on the first theme note of the Crunluath variation. Let's hear the variation. In both the Taorluath and Crunluath variations, try to put just an extra millisecond of time on the fourth note in each bar, our strong pulse. If you can do this, you'll give the tune a little bit of structure and a little bit of phrasing, and that will help engage your listeners. Now, onto the Crunluath Amach, which you have worked with in one of my previous videos on the Crunluath Amach. The Crunluath Amach variation is always going to be a little bit quicker than the Crunluath variation. It's also okay to play this variation in a slightly hurried fashion, especially when you have several Amach movements in a row. Something like this. Always wait, though, before you hit the next theme note of a plain Crunluath, like this. And as I've said about a lot of Piobaireachd movements, don't try to play these as fast as you can. They should be textured, rippling movements, and there should be lots of rhythm in this variation. Let's hear the Crunluath Amach variation. saw at the end of this tune, I circled back to the start of the ground, and you heard me play the first bar or two there. That is standard operating procedure when you play Piobaireachd. When you get to the end, you go back into the ground and you play the first line of the ground again with a repeat, if there is one. You should also know that there is not a Crunluaths variation in every Piobaireachd. Lots of Piobaireachd don't have a Crunluaths variation. If there are enough bottom hand notes in the Crunluaths variation, then it's suitable for a Crunluaths, but some tunes don't have enough bottom hand notes to make it worthwhile putting a Crunluaths variation. It would just sound like the Crunluaths variation being played again. Generally, you don't hear Crunluaths variations in laments, but we're playing it in this tune, which is a lament, because the note structure really suits a Crunluaths variation, and it's a very nice Crunluaths variation. But it is not mandatory. You can play it if you can play it well and wish to play it. If you're in the lower amateur grades, Crunluaths are very much optional. In addition, this is a lovely tune for recitals. If you like this tune, start memorizing, work on your technique, take some singing walks, and have fun with this sweet melody. From me, Jim McGillivray at the Pipe Box, good piping.